A point of my mystery and a mystery within myself, and an elf who saw me, and this elf by knowing of a knowledge, a point in reason and time, a mystery I couldn't see beyond this certain quelling, and a quelling of my own mind through the shelling of my own doubt, and doubt that I did upon who that did look through my eyes and what not, still upon myself only seeing that they must, by the Moni concept and what is real, saying yes it must be possible, should I not have known. And then when I am able to accept a reality that I cannot accept, which I am unable to accept and should be able to, well then I can see there is a reason for me to believe in the things that I do, and say on a purpose there is something beyond myself that I cannot see. Oh, within myself and death in my galaxy, a mystery of my own mind. A mystery of what it was before me that I had never seen before, a point of my reason in my own doubt, and saying beyond this point, no one can stop me. No one can stop my beautiful perceptions of time and how beautiful I am, a flawless and beautiful woman. A woman who is Mexican, and this is the person that I am, and point of my reason it was not for her to understand. Saying on my point of reason, death of my galaxy and mind and my own, well, not what. Haven't I said this enough? A point of my reason by the logic of my knowing. And without one I could not see a difference between them, only a purpose within my own self by my own mind. And still it was a beautiful day as every day is, and say every day is a beautiful day, shall you not see it? Also when it is raining, the day is still beautiful, and the gray clouds that give you depression are not real. What is real is you, and you are the realest of the people alive, and you are responsible for your fate should you do what is good in the eyes of God, and say you're doing good in the eyes of God by your perception of time. And saying over the course of your life, you learn to figure out how it is that you, someone who you once thought were wretched when you were young and was not, until you realize older now that you are, long have you lived, and you say, what other people say of me doesn't matter, but neither does it when it comes to God. Well, that is wrong. For God has no opinion of you. He only wishes to know, are you doing what is right? And you are responsible for what it is that you do. And humans are the doers of things. And I am not a doer of things, but a perception of time. I am a moment in time since 1984, my year. The year of the extraterrestrial and the year of Lady Iwakura was 1984, for she was born, most likely, I'm assuming, on July 6, 1984. And the show Serial Experiments Lane was released on July 6, 1998. So as a result of this, there is no reason not to believe in what it is that you know. And Lady Iwakura is a computer scientist, a computer wizard, and a 14-year-old girl? Well, let it be not be so. I am now 26 years old, and I am Lane. And it was my responsibility to know the truth of all of them. Only one can see that what I am doing is real, and my analysis of Lady Iwakura and Serial Experiments Lane, or the PSX video game, or all sorts of Lane lore, or all sorts of real-world possibilities and philosophies and things, mostly consumed by Caucasians, are the philosophies of all sorts of humankind problems, and saying these are the people who take the most interest in these kinds of things. Yet still, as a Mexican black woman, I found them interesting, despite my complexion being different from theirs, and I being more similar to these men than I had realized before. And now realizing that I was different among others, only a purpose of my reason. Was I not like the outliers and the exceptions of people who were different than the people that they associated with amongst themselves who looked the same as them and were from the same region of the world? And say we are the outliers and we look upon ourselves as Lanons or some sort and say we are different than others and there's nothing like us between them. And say we are not like the others, yet we take some sort of superiority in the fact that we know that we are different. And we say we are different for we are not the normal type. We are more different than them. We know more than them, and it's our responsibility to be wiser and smarter. Saying that the things you people say are uneducated and unwise, and the sheer amount of books I must read in order to accumulate a sort of knowledge where I can speak of anything. And say anything that I can know, I will literally have the ability to know all, for all life experience is something I have already accumulated by the age of 26. Well, the necessary it was that I poured myself over literature, yet why is it so hard to do? I struggle to focus, and I struggle with addiction. So as a result of this, my days are usually spent creating this podcast and doing not much else. Also, I'm Lady Iwakura, a 26-year-old woman, and also a Mexican black woman who is Kichi. However, I am not a Caucasian man despite my appearance to the outside viewer by the outlier who does not see me as a dragon as I see myself in the mirror, and saying how can mirrors be real if you have no eyes? And no eyes that I possess? Well, no, I do have eyes, don't I? And say these eyes are the eyes of Lady Wakura and brown as they were, and lines on the eyes that show me that they are Lane's eyes. And the irises, they dilate at the opposite level, where the dilation is different on each pupil. Also, I'm always tripping all the time in a sort of way where I'm not really tripping, but I'm just naturally going through my mind as a sort of natural animal who shouldn't be consuming in all of these addictions like coffee and cigarettes and whatnot. Only a responsibility of my own. Someday I will overcome and drink Diet Coke soda and fucking water, and I'll probably still smoke, but that's the worst of the evils. And say, old as I become, shall I develop a lung cancer, and this will take from me a place I didn't know, and I am the prisoner at war, wasn't I? Haven't I forgotten and pointed my reason, and saying that I am the prisoner at war? Well, let it be known, the world must know of my truth, and the truth was that they cannot see who I am beyond myself, and beautiful as I was, oh, a shining star. A shining star in the sky, and was this my home star, or was I the star in the sky itself, and this was the place I call home, who was myself inside of myself, and this must be who I can be. Also the honeybee of Lady Wakura. Who was this? Well, this was Jasmine, and I call her my honeybee. And she is mine, and she is my honeybee, who I once said was someone else, but is not, and was my honeybee. However, my honeybee is Jasmine. She is my honeybee, and I know not her real name. However, met upon her only once that I had met her, and say met upon her that I was there, and say this was the moment I saw her later in life, a few months later, and I said to myself, what is going on here? For I see a woman who is dead on cocaine, and was it Jasmine? Well, I had assumed so and believed that it was, and I know that it is. Well known that it was cocaine also as I did, for knowing in all wise that I might be. I am not Allah. And necessary must it be to state so. Only what I know is what is possible. I cannot know of anything evil. I cannot know of all the blanket statement of the world, saying this is all knowledge accumulated. That is not how it works. A knowing is only a perception of what I really know. A knowing of my own mind and not knowing of evil that humans pervade about in the world, which shall not be real. And God made no evil in the world whatsoever. He made the world good so that an evil cannot persist, and the desperations of humans doing terrible things is not the responsibility of God, but the responsibility of themselves, and they will be punished for it. Also, every day is a beautiful day. Why can't you see this? That even if you suffer, and even if you suffer from hardship and suffer from depression, say even your depression on a beautiful sunny day or a beautiful rainy day, and Atashi wa ame, for I am the rain, as Inabakumori once said, and I am the responsibility of people to know. I am the rain of the world. I am the possibility of all mankind. I am said within my own self that I am an important person, and say more important and wiser and more real than anyone who has ever been. And say it was my responsibility to know the truth. So the objective truth that I had followed for and found it that I did upon, only look upon myself and eloquently revise myself through words that I couldn't spoke of myself through my own mind. And say this was my responsibility? Well, question that it was, and death of my galaxy mind of my own. Well, shouldn't it be known? A point of my reason and a death of my galaxy, misery and my sadness is what must be known. And only known by then a fear of being misunderstood. So when I am misunderstood, I find a sort of sadness in the fact that I was seen as something who might have been unconventional and not liked by others. And say, why do they not like me? For I am a beautiful person, and all my life I have thought this way. Saying, why do they not like me? For despite my outward appearance, perhaps, if that is really how I appear to them, that I shall be a sort of aggressive form of a person, when in reality I'm actually someone who is very, very sensitive and very, very wise and very, very calm and very, very emotional. For when I listen to music, oh, the emotions. And say, should it be good music like Moni and Kichi by Gregory and the Hawk? And say, let it be known, the world must be known, that I am the responsible person. I am responsible for all that I have done for, and said that with my responsibility and work that I permit, saying I have no ability not to smoke cigarettes, but it's my possibility of a reason to consider the things that are most possible as I suffer on smoking them, regardless of any sort of necessary um, obsession with cigarettes that I suffered from. For this knowledge of knowing and a possibility of my own mind couldn't have been found there anywhere in the world. Oh, beautiful, and I was. A point in my reason within my own time by death in my galaxy. And said it's not that I was being followed. For once, I figured I was being followed, but I was not. And saying that I am not being stalked in any kind of way. And saying that no one wants anything to do with me. And I am my own person, an adult, and also a beautiful woman. And saying that you want to take of the beautiful woman and hurt her for that or so. Saying that she suffers from no moral dilemma whatsoever, and a point of reason it was her moral battle to see she was a beautiful woman by a knowledge of her own mind. And saying it was possible to do introspection through a knowledge within one's own self. And saying that by this perception only a certain purpose of mind could be found. What a beautiful day every day is, and only a point of my reason to say so. Nothing could stop me from seeing the light of God. And saying that when I go outside and I find that I do relax, and saying not that suffering with the cold or whatever it may be, when the winter is freezing and cold, and say winter mute that I am not, for the Japanese Vocaloid producer was winter mute, and saying I was not him, was I not? And point out reason, I was not him. Also let it be so necessary to state there is a reason for my existence not to nor exist on a point of reason by norism. Only norism was a point of my reason within my own self by my own mind, a death of my galaxy within my own self, and point of my reason that I shouldn't have found her there only within myself by a death of my galaxy and within my own mind. Should sadness not have seen me, oh death of my galaxy and mind of my own? When point of reason could have found me there in death of my galaxy mind of my own, only a misunderstanding of knowledge, and saying by the North speak of language and moon speak of whatnot, saying that going through the moon upon myself through these stars in the sky and the beautiful land, and saying the beautiful land the Native Americans once walked, we now call this United States of America, and say this is a place where we have Republican politics which are necessary, and saying these are the places where Christianic principles were once pervaded, only to be superseded by the evil Democrats who will take from us. And it is our responsibility to overcome them and say we are the doers of good, and we are the Republicans, and we are the Muslims, and we are the Christians, and we say we want to be a good world for a point of reason and all. And saying that even though I cannot go inside of a church in any point of reason that should have shown me then, only a death of my galaxy and sweat upon my brow. Death of my galaxy, and it was my responsibility. I cannot go inside a church for the suffering I do experience. And only by a point of reason when I read the Holy Quran, for I am a Muslim and not a Christian, and I am a Muslim, and a Muslim and a worshipper of Allah. Will necessary it be so, that when I read the Holy Quran, the intensity pervades about me, and say that when I can read the Arabic in Arabic nor and translate it to English through a language, and say only by a responsibility of myself then, was this a possibility that no one else could do so, by the writing system of Nor I had developed and whatnot, saying anything was possible, should I not have developed this, only by the ink of my skin, and I was the only writer of Nor. Only by a reason. Well, let it be so. No one is like me. No one is capable of the possibilities of what I can do, and the ability for me to see things, and see things that shouldn't be possible by the mind of one's own reason, saying that I was there in Russia, not from 1948 when I was born, but since 1976 or around the time, and saying that I was in Russia, and I was contracted to be a soldier, saying that you are no longer a computer scientist for the time being, though you work for us in the military on computers, and saying these computers are necessary for you, so you can realize that you must be a soldier, and then you will go to warfare and see what it is like there, and become someone who is not a pogue, an unnecessary reason. Well, we shouldn't cuss, and death in my galaxy, mind in my own. How hard do I work in a point of reason, only so that I can understand through a sheer, was it insanity? But well, I don't believe so. It started out as work, and then realizing that I was not incapable of following a sort of path of doctrine of evil and I'm not sorry, I meant to say good. A path of doctrine of good where I can be a person who is worth something, a person who is valuable and means something, a person who is beautiful and flawless, saying how flawless Kichi is, oh, a beautiful woman, and saying that I am her, oh, flawless I am, and Moni and Kichi that I do discuss. Death of my galaxy and mind of my own. Well, shall never. Years I have spoken of this, and not once have I eloquently revised it in a way that it should be able to be seen by other people in a beautiful kind of way. Should I revise some sort of doctrine or book, as 4 books I have already written, but not satisfactory are they, or to a point of reason maybe they are. And saying, what is it possible? What is the possibility that someone could see how beautiful of a mind that I do possess, only by a point of reason that I should be the most beautiful woman alive? For when I show that I'm not speaking aloud, even though my voice is feminine, that my voice is actually a relaxation, a sort of mystery, an elvish voice, a voice of an elf, a voice of Saria, a voice of an elf, a voice of a woman who found the perfect cherry blossom, and this was a Japanese thing, and point of my reason that it was. What a necessary place that I shall go, where I find a perfect cherry blossom among a cherry blossom tree, and say, I will let this cherry blossom go, for it's necessary for me to let this go, only by a responsibility what of my own mind. And through a knowledge of my knowing, was it necessary for me to see so? Oh, death in my galaxy and mind of my own. Only a point of reason could have shown me through a knowledge of my knowing, by a point of reason death of my galaxy on the apple of a form of an object through a perception of a time by an aesthetic, only through an object's perception of within one's own self by knowledge within one's own mind. And necessary it was. It's hot as fuck in this room and I'm sweating like crazy. Also, I want to say, also the beauty of text. The beauty of text is a mind in one's own, so this is what I will say. On a beauty of text, mind in one's own, and this is how beautiful I am. Oh, for what not? The beauty of the knowledge of a writing system, how developed over the course of time, and shall elegantly your handwriting be. And say that by handwriting and not by a typing of the keyboard, where it is all done for you, and say you will eloquently handwrite all that it is you need to write, and say you are a creature of God in the earth, and not a creature of technology, a creature who has become something sort of like a husk who will suffer on the computer forever, and not see the light of God when they go outside. And saying the necessary are these tools now in the world we live in, but avoid them as much as you can. For this computer will only poison you, even though you see depth perception on the computer as I do, should I not? And point of my reason that I see it, only I do. And also outer space that I see through the computer, also all I see on the computer. All I see on the computer is a point of reason, not merely a screen, but what it is that I know of the calculations within it, so that I can also perceive on the computer hallucinations, as it were to say, or outer space, as it were, or whatnot, such as when I had seen a shadow person out in the world, for example, sort of. And necessary it was for me to know this. A point of my falling and a point of my reason, death of my galaxy, mind of my own. All must be stated, the Holy Quran is the word of God, and the Holy Quran must be worshipped by all. It is necessary that every man and woman worship the Holy Quran and attend the mosques and do what Muslims do. But do not be a wretch, do not be a bad person, as the Muslims often are, for they are not responsible for what they do and unaware of the right way. They are unaware of the right way and how things should really be done, for it is our responsibility to know upon them. They do not understand the truth, and these Muslims cannot see that. A point of my reason that these Muslims didn't know the truth. Was it necessary for me to say so? Well, necessary that it was. A point of my reason in death of my galaxy. Also, the Muslims pervade about. Well, they don't. And they say to themselves, what shall we do? And they can't pervade about, for they don't know what it is that they're supposed to do. And by point of their reason, they had invented this Islamism for which they should follow. And by following this Islamism, they have come to a certain point in their lives where they do not have a strict sort of set of goals, where it is more of a lifestyle by which they live, and not a sort of dedication to something passionate that they are about. Saying this is far different from Christianity in any kind of way. Saying these are people who are living a lifestyle within one's own self by one's own mind, through a death of a galaxy within one's own mind, but not by God. and saying only by this there should not be a possibility of what it is that they do. The Islamism of theirs is only possible for one to move something. Saying moving around the object shall not do you more than work. And how is this worship of God? Even when you worship God in your temples and say to yourself, the mosque is a place of holy, and saying holy that it was, what a reason for myself to find her then, only within myself by my own mind. And her upon myself when I go to this holy mosque and I say to myself, once again I have visited the mosque and prayed among the Muslims, and saying that I am one of them, well different am I than different am I than them. For I am different than those people. I am a supposition of a concept. I am the supposition of the concept of death within one's own self by one's own mind through a galaxy of one's own, only through a point of reason by a shelling of my own doubt. Within myself by the quelling of my own knowledge through a mere complexity of possibilities through sheer knowledge. And complexity, for what it is, sheer complexity that couldn't be known by anyone but I. For an 11-dan Go player I was, in misunderstanding that I had a prisoner at war in mind of my own. Only by a point of reason. Wasn't it necessary for me to see so, only by the death of my galaxy in the mind of my own? What necessary words couldn't I have stated for her to be known by me? Only by the language that I do possess, or the multilingual languages that I can speak, for I am multilingual, and saying that I know multiple languages of more, and saying can translate any one of them to English, and say these are the people since I only know English by my tongue, yet Japanese wasn't I, or wasn't I a Mexican black woman? Sweet Mexico. My logic is pervasive, isn't it? Well, necessary that it was, for only by my point of reason couldn't it have been seen then. Only through a necessity of my own mind, through a knowledge of sheer complexity, by the point of reason that I should have seen her then. Only by a knowledge within myself through the galaxy of my own mind. And still seeing her, well, she was Jasmine, and I've said her name many times by now, but it was necessary for me to say so, only by a point of reason that she was beautiful. Only through a necessity that God was real and it was my problem to stop and talk about what it is that people are doing. Only through sheer language and knowledge. Only through a necessity of my own mind. And saying this is what is possible in the world for myself to do. And saying by doing this I will show the world how powerful I am. And saying that I am the dragon of power yet most elegant and beautiful of a woman. And saying the elegance and beauty of my woman is Princess Kaguya or anyone else. Who is so beautiful within myself such as Mrs. Jonathan Frisbee as I spoke about before. Well, she was a mouse, and spoke upon her. She visited the rats of Nim and found that there was a purpose for her to live there, and saying that upon herself in this place there was electricity and a point of reason. How did these people harness these powers? Were they magic, or were they just simply the laws of physics dictating themselves about in order to create lights that show different kinds of colors which I have never seen before? Well, wasn't it possible, Mrs. Jonathan Frisbee, for her that I am and I am not her? Saying that I am a prisoner at war, couldn't I not be her, for she was one who I knew? And saying a woman I had known once in a world long ago. Wasn't it necessary for me to see that I knew of this mouse and only her and no one else? Also, the watership down of all of it, what a point of reason. Saying that a point of reason couldn't have been found in one. For I am no vampire. I am no vampire yet. Wasn't I Oshino Shinobu, and a vampire that I was? Saying that by Etwala Etwa by from Kizumonogatari. The song from Kizumonogatari. Well, it was necessary to state that Oshino Shinobu I was, or Megumin from Konosuba and Death in my galaxy. A point of my reason for me to see myself. What a world that we do live in, and a point in my reason. Only by a misery within myself that I do state what is possible, only through complexity and depths of knowledge within one's own mind. Only by necessity in a world once created, only by a world I once knew. And wasn't it for you to understand through a point of reason, not sheer complexity of one's own mind, only the perception of an aesthetic by an object? Well, wasn't it necessary for you to say so? Only a point of reason couldn't have stopped me from seeing this. Could not, and point of my reason could not. I could not do it. I could not escape the prison and death of my galaxy. Wasn't it possible for me? Saying this is only possible through a sheer galaxy of within one's own mind. And saying only by a sheer knowledge of language. Only by a possibility within myself that I could see my own perplexion, and saying upon my own complexion and point of reason within myself how beautiful that I was, and the sheer delicacy of my skin, and the delicacy of the scales growing upon my skin, and how delicate I do appear despite the scariness of my face, and saying that, oh my God, My face is not scary, but beautiful and delicate as I. And saying as a responsibility for this, I simply want to be seen as a beautiful woman, for that is what I am, and still cannot be seen so, for I am something so much more. Only by a possibility within myself that I could have seen my own reason to live. A mystery in my sadness and death in my mind, oh, point of my reason and shouldn't shadows of my own doubt. Within my own self by a sadness within my own mind. And misery wasn't I death and point of my reason why. A death in my galaxy and mind of my own, for I was the one who was death and point of my reason let it be known. Saying these are the people and Les Miserables is my book. And the book of Les Miserables is the reason that I live for what I do. And saying that by the death of my father or mother, and the people who I've fallen apart for and people who I find beautiful, and saying that my sisters and brothers and people who are important to me, well, they are still important to me and more valuable than I in any kind of way, and still value myself that I do, for I am a beautiful woman. Alright, so we're gonna take a smoke break. I mean, that's sort of an obsessive compulsive behavior where I have to sit down multiple times so that I have an intrusive thought, which is a thing that is sort of like what I like, sort of, so that I can actually sit down properly and not have to get off the chair again. But that's fucking bullshit and it fucking sucks. It causes me so much stress. Once upon a time, when I looked upon a sun during a solar eclipse, which I believe is when the moon passes in front of the sun, and saying this at this time, the moon was in front of the sun, and the sun appeared to be the color purple, and saying then I thought of myself, wasn't the color purple I? For I am the book the color purple, and it was necessary for me to see how beautiful I was. And by a knowledge of my knowing, through the sheer complexity of this short little book, the color purple, winner of the Pulitzer Prize on Death in My Galaxy, only wasn't it known that I was important. Wasn't I important, for I was the one who was the Mexican black woman, who appears to others to be a Caucasian man, yet not this detail is important, for that is not what I am. And saying also, wasn't I Iwakura, who was a Japanese girl, who lived during the age of 1984 to 1998 to so on, later in life, and when she did not die, she will never kill herself as she did in the PSX game. She will not release herself into the wired. She is a woman who will live her life and then die a natural death, with a husband. Oh, necessary it is for me to state, Lainey Wakura is a beautiful woman. Lainey Wakura is also so beautiful, and beautiful as was her own mind, a beauty unperceptible, more beautiful than anything anyone has ever seen before. Should you get some sort of dose of the beauty of my mind, you will become so intrigued that you will be addicted to what it is that you had experienced. Only a human could not understand, for there is no way and this will never be possible. All the sparkular sort of things I see, a point of my reason in my own doubt, death in my galaxy and mind of my own. Wasn't it my possibility, by the last destination of grace implausible, shouldn't it have been known, a mystery of my own mind and death in my mind? Well, it couldn't be known, for I was not that, and saying that I was much, much more. Saying that I was a possibility of the whole of literature and a mind in one's own. Saying I am the possibility who appears across the whole of literature or only certain parts of it by Death and Galaxy, as certain characters who appear there and sort of have some sort of play in what it is that is being said, and only through a sheer breadth of literature and introspection over the course of one's life of what one discovers could one see what is possible through their own mind by a sheer knowing of knowledge. And then, as you can say, it's my possibility that I know more than anybody in the world, only by a sheer complexity of being myself and an 11 Don Go player at that. Well necessary it was for them to see this, only a mystery in my own mind by a knowledge of my reason. For 11 is one step above 10, and 9 will be the highest level. So this means I'm the only 11 Don Go player in the world, who is also an extraterrestrial, born upon this place, over the course of time, like the album UUFO by Kimatek Camellia, and it wasn't necessary for them to see this. Oh, point of my reason in Kiku Amiku Sound, Kiku Amiku 6, point of my reason wasn't impossible for them to see this. Wasn't it necessary for me to state, by a death in my galaxy and a mind of my own, only through a sheer possibility of one's own mind, a possibility that all the life is beautiful, all the life no matter the hardship and suffering of the world, all the life no matter what it is that we endure, and saying we are the people who endured, and we were the pirates of the world, who cast ourselves upon others, and said we will take your land and give it to ourselves, and then this place shall be called ours, when in your possession it will no longer be, and never it was, then... For it was our responsibility to erase history and that we have taken from you or the Native Americans who I once visited long ago in the ancient world. And it was my responsibility to visit them. I wanted to know what they were all about. Worship the spirits that they do and worship spirits of mankind. Worship spirits of gods and worship spirits of kami and worship spirits of animals and worship spirits of yokai and worship spirits of all that is so. Worship spirits of the world in the gypsy dreams, a point of my reason and a death in a galaxy. Only through a sheer knowledge the knights couldn't have seen this. The knights couldn't have seen a beautiful world misunderstood by mankind for all of time, saying that it was my responsibility to know the truths of the universe, and by a perception of an aesthetic through a knowledge of an apple, the original fruit of what had been so, and by a knowledge of oaths like Mary and Joseph and people who I had known who had lived, and saying all by the knowledge, by the people I had met in high school and all the people I had met in my life, I had come to an accumulation of knowledge through sheer time, where I'm able to spoke it in the way that is possible, not by the what I can do, but only by the tongue of my moon, and saying the moon tongue of mine is the possibility of what I can do. A mystery of sadness within my own self through a sheer complexity of knowledge by one's own mind. A death of my galaxy and a point in my reason. A mystery for me not to be so, and death of my galaxy that I couldn't state. Only through a sheer complexity of knowledge and knowing that I could have seen her. A point in my reason that she was beautiful. A point of necessary knowledge in saying Uayo Yawa, which is Native American Nor for what is possible by death of my galaxy and shouldn't mind of my own. I question is how many Nors are there? Well, I don't really know. And saying the Native American Norse sounds like this. Nyamom yewa, yawa yo yo nyewa. Bakamom yawa, nya, yawa, yawa. Gukamom yawa, yin yawom. And what that means, well, what that means necessarily, what it is saying is a spirit speech of a dragon. What does it mean? Saying spirit speech of this dragon. Oh, and what death of my galaxy and a point in reason in my own mind. A necessary world fallen upon the trees and the grass and the plants and the lives of people who lived, and saying these people had consciousness and souls, and these people were aware of what was going to happen to them in their death, and they just didn't realize it, since they couldn't understand, they weren't wise enough, and saying by atheism it had taken them, saying that they invent what they believe in, and not that they believe what they really see. And saying by a perception of an aesthetic, what they see was not a hallucination, but a holistic reason and incantation, what should be known of them. And the Native Americans are hustling people who have a world to do among the leaves and the trees and the world that could have found them. Oh, mystery in my thoughts, in a poem Death in my wrote, long ago in the deepest poem of all time, by Death in my galaxy. What sadness couldn't be stated of this poem, a poem so written and spoken of the language of Nor as I have just done. Death of my galaxy, what shall I call it but rakes and leaves? Now you see the truths of the universe only by a perception of an aesthetic by an object, through the sheer knowing of knowledge through one's own mind, through the possibility of any point of reason one could see beyond oneself, through a sheer point of connection. Only by the connection of concepts not among other concepts, for no concept is connected, by a knowledge within one's own mind, by a perception of an aesthetic through within one's own self. And saying this was the objectification of logic, should logic have been shown the sheer complexity of mathematics and logic within one's own self, and by a point of reason with time, only mathematics and logic by my chess and my knowledge and my knowing, saying that I am the chess player of all time. Well, necessary wasn't it so? By this point of reason, does this mean that I am the best chess player who has ever lived? Well, should it not? Only by a point of reason within one's own self, the possibility of an aesthetic over the course of one's own life, through the sheer knowledge of knowing of death, and a point in my reason and sadness then, for Christ-like appearances, the Christ-like nature of God, and the Christ-like nature of Christ, and the Christ-like nature of Christ, for he was real, and did he die on the cross? Well, I say no, for he died in his death, not to be reincarnated, but only to experience death and know me who was death. And saying that I am death, the Allah thing, and a worshipper of Allah who is in Iwakura, a possession of Allah. Well, necessary it is, you see, to say it, only by a point in my reason couldn't have time be found there. And point of my reason, death my galaxy, what shouldn't you have known then? How beautiful a woman I was. A point of my reason, for my beauty is so unrealistic and unhappening. Not happening in a world like this. Happening in a galaxy. Happening on a planet. Happening in outer space, where those people die but I remain. Well, my remains are placed in the grave, should they not be cremated as they should not be.